This is how the Houdini file is going to look when you open it. But before we look through it and see what's going on here, I would like to do a little bit of housekeeping. I will be explaining you things while having my custom desktop set up, and I think it might be easier for you to navigate if you have the same setup as me. Let's go top left screen in the desktop menu and select Games. This is what we want. This is how I usually work. I have 2 panels here and 2 panels here. Let's close the ones on the right for now. And if in your case this geometry spreadsheet was opened, please also close it. We want it there, we just want it hidden for now. After that, let's go here to the desktop menu, click Save Current Desktop As, and you can save it under your name. I already have a desktop saved as Maria. So I'm going to select it and change my desktop to Maria. Then I will go to Edit Preferences, General User Interface, and there I will change Startup in Desktop to the desktop that I just created, Maria, and accept. After that, this file already contains some assets that it references from the disk, but in your case, they won't work straight out of the box because your project is not set yet. So let's go into the file, set project, and please navigate to bhk_start. This is the folder that you downloaded and unzipped. Go inside that folder, and this is what is going to be our project. After you navigate it into bhk_start, click Accept. Now your project is set. To check that, on top right in the scene view, please select the camera. And if you move your cursor through the timeline, you will see camera moving. If that worked, it means your project is set correctly. If this is done, perfect. Now we can continue. Let's see what we have with this file. This thing is the camera that we just looked at. Next, we have some proxy geo. And this proxy geo, if you dive inside, these are just some buildings and the ground. If you move, they are situated in the correct depth and location in 3D. We will use them later for collisions. After that, we have asset heli. Let's dive inside. And this is our helicopter. Please go to this out heli, and you should see your helicopter appearing in the viewport. If it's not appearing, maybe you will need to relink those folders, but that should work by default, and you should have the helicopter in the viewport. So what it is, it's actually an FBX file that was imported. And if I look at this merge, the original helicopter is pretty big. It is 43 meters in length, which is not really the size of the Black Hawk helicopter. So there are a few things here where I modified it to scale it a little bit down. If I press space 2 in the viewport, here is our Black Hawk helicopter, and it is 13 meters. It's a little bit smaller than what we have or what it should be in real life, but if you look at our footage, we don't have that much space in between the buildings on the street, and if we have a real size Black Hawk there, it will take the whole frame. So sometimes we have to do cheats like that. After that, we just save rest attribute, as we often do, so that later we can use it, for example, for texturing. And after that, I'm just creating a few manual groups here that I will use later for constraints. You will notice that these nodes are colored red, and this is just my personal habit. If I have a node in which I did some manual selections, like for example, you see here, manual primitives were selected, I color it in red so that later, for example, if our modeling department changes the model of the helicopter and the point count changes, I know that these are the nodes that I will have to redo manually. Yeah. Same for front rotor blades. There are some manual selections done here. After that, I'm just checking that actually my materials are coming through fine, UVs are working. I just need to turn on my materials in the viewport, and I can check, yes, I can see the textures here, I can see the windows. Even better if I change my viewport to smooth shaded and I turn off the lighting. then I can see, yes, the textures are coming through just fine. And I'm checking what happens if I apply glass materials. Yes, everything on the inside is also working. After that, I'm deleting some unnecessary attributes. And then we are animating our helicopter. Let's go through view through the camera, and we just move through the timeline. What you will see is helicopter is appearing from screen left and coming towards camera. It is stopping in the end, but it's only because in this shot, the explosion happens at frame 1430, so we don't really care about any animation beyond that. We just need the animation before this frame. Throughout my file, you will notice that I have these green nodes, and what they are actually just simple reminders for me to remember to every time I do some major changes or do some modifications to, for example, here to the helicopter asset, I'm gonna go and check that everything is still working in the render. So I want to go and do a render test. This is what this reminder is for. Let's jump one level up. And before we dive into Lops, just a little remark. You will see that I'm working in Lops in this manner. I created a separate Lop network here instead of going into stage here. And the reason for that is because when I was working on the shot, I was working on an NAS. And in Lops, there is a feature where we can take snapshots and it saves them into a gallery, and you can have access to those snapshots at all times. Unfortunately, on my system, there was a permissions issue to save the database on the NAS, but I believe this issue was just unique issue to my system and my NAS. But there was an easy solution. I created a LopNet in this manner, and then I could manually point where I want the snapshots to be saved, and I chose them to be saved on my local machine. That's the reason. Okay. So we need to dive into this LopNet, but before we do that, just one thing, I would like to create a quick mark here. I'm pressing Control 1 to set a quick mark here, which means every time from now on I press 1, I will be taken to objects context. It will just make my life a little bit easier. So let's dive into our LopNet. And let's set another quick mark here, Control 2, to go into the LopNet. Okay, so housekeeping done. Let's get to business. So Lop test 001, that's where we are supposed to go, right? Let's check what we have here. We have our render cam. This is just your scene import camera. If you press tab and you type camera or cam, you will see there's a scene import cameras node. So we have our render cam here imported this way. Then there is a manual dome light created, which already has an HDRI in it. That's what you see in the background. And they are merged. This is the first step. As we continue, I would like to see just a black background here instead of viewing the HDRI. This is not doing me any good right now. So I'm going to put my mouse in the scene view, press D, go to background, and turn off display environment lights as backgrounds. I'm also going to change the color scheme to dark. Okay, easy. Also, I do not like viewing the lights and cameras right now in the viewport, so I'm going to turn off the camera and turn off the light. Then in the scene view, let's go view through our camera and see what we got here. First, we have our helicopter imported. And again, this is super easy. I just press tab, type SOP import. And in this SOP import, I just referenced the out heli null that we were looking at earlier. That's it. This is totally blown out, so let's turn off our lights so we can actually see our model of the helicopter. Then I have a material library here. This is a simple material library Lop. If we dive inside, there are two materials here. One is simple glass. If I dive inside, what you'll see here is material standard surface with a little bit of specular and full transmission. That's it. Very simple glass. And the second material is our helicopter material. And there, what we have is separate textures for color, metallic, and so on. And these are the just material X UV texture nodes in which I'm referencing our color, metallic, roughness, specular, tint. If you want to create similar material to this, you just press tab. You type USD Material X Builder, and that's what I used. You dive inside, and this is the starting position from which I started when I created these materials. We can delete that. Let's jump one level up. And we have the materials, we have the helicopter. Now we need to assign them. We are missing our Lops panel. Let's expand it here. And here what you have is the primitives. How I did that is on the bottom left. I just took this heli and dragged it here, dropped it. This is my primitive to which I want to apply the material. And then I did the same with the material path for the helicopter. I'm disregarding glass right now, just want to check that UVs for the helicopter are working. So let's go and check that in our Karma XPU, as everything will be rendering will be in Karma XPU, and see what we have here. And looks like it's working. Took a little moment to process, but now yes, we have our helicopter, and it looks like all the textures are working. The model is doing just fine. Perfect, first step done. We imported our helicopter, we animated it, and everything is working in Karma.